Power cords?
You can tell how neat it is back there. There's really a lot of time.
Okay, rolling. I'm Brooke, and this is Brayden. We have 2 kids and 2 dogs, Rooney, Penn, Frazier, and Captain. At 75 tons and 55 feet long, our home is different. With time being non-renewable and our home being, well, movable, around the world we go as we roam to know. Welcome aboard, Mermaid Monster. Welcome to episode 64, which also happens to be our Nordhavn 55 tour, part 2, etc. Disclaimer, it is a raw and semi-technical 30-minute episode, and unlike our other videos, that's all I'll say.
Come on down.
You've been warned.
What are you doing? That's so weird. Oh my goodness. What are you doing?
Alright, so I wanted to go over the WATERMAKER equipment for the second half of the boat tour.
Okay.
So let me just describe a little bit what's going on. This right here has nothing to do with anything. This is the house water pump. And these 2 units right here are WATERMAKERs.
Wait, what's the other one? Right there?
This is called the Little Wonder.
It's by Village Marine.
And we'll talk about that in a second. But this is the main WATERMAKER right here. This WATERMAKER is going to give us about 40 gallons an hour of perfect water. We get this service regularly and we keep a really good eye on it. We have to do manual flushes, which are really easy. We're just flushing the water. And why we flush the water is because we want to make sure that no growth or any water gets stuck in the membranes, so the membranes stay healthy longer.
You don't want water in the membranes?
We want new water in the membranes, because new water will make sure those membranes don't get old and there's no growth inside the membranes. So this water runs through a charcoal filter and back into the membranes, and that makes sure that there's no chlorine or any chemicals that are in dock water and other water sources that you might have. It makes sure that everything is really clean going through the membranes.
How much water does this one make?
This is our 12-volt system right here. The 12-volt system is nice because you can hear the house water pump. That house water pump came on because it's flushing that larger unit. The 12-volt system is nice because you can run it all day long. It runs on batteries, so you don't need to start the generator to get that going. So times that we'll use the 12 volt.
How much water does it make?
It makes about 8 gallons an hour. And that's gonna vary depending on how old your membranes are. So if your membranes are a little bit newer, you're gonna be doing more than that. It's gonna run a little bit more efficiently. If those as those membranes continue to wear, you're gonna get a little bit less functionality out of it. We've relied on this one quite extensively because sometimes there's been a problem with the larger one. And it's nice because you can just keep it going 24 hours a day. We keep it going. Normally when we'll run it towards the night when we know that we're gonna power up the batteries. We have a little bit of juice left in the batteries. We'll turn this on and just let it continue to run as we have the generator on. It works out really, really well. So what the water does is it goes through these systems. You can see the membranes are right here. So the water goes through these membranes, and there's small holes inside the membranes that let the water through, but not the salt. The salt gets discharged overboard, and that gives us perfect water.
Okay, thank you.
All right, now we're up here at the solar panels. So we have 4 of these panels. I couldn't tell you the exact size of it, and no one ever wrote it down. But there's gonna be, these look like they're probably about 100-watt panels, so it's probably about 400 watts. A lot of times people will ask, did you run solar instead of running a generator? We'll talk about the battery bank in a little bit on what's actually charging and how many batteries there are. But the boat does require a decent amount of power. We're running a sub-zero fridge, we're running an ice chest, we're running a lot of electronics that are running even when most things are powered off. Even a low load is quite a lot. So, give you an example. We are doing about 40 amps. That's when most things are powered off and we go away for the day. Maybe we're at anchor. Well, I can get it down to about 30 amps, but that's how much we're running. And from what I've seen, we're just not able to get enough solar to replenish all that on a regular basis. All right, talking about a little bit of electronics. So this one out here will go up to 95 miles. This one out here, couldn't tell you, we don't use it quite as much. I can look up the stats on that in a second. But we normally use this radar here, and to tell you the truth, we normally keep it at, depends on where we are, but if we're in close, it's probably about 10 miles. If we're out far, we'll extend it pretty far, but that's mostly just to see the weather. Sorry, I got the sun in my eyes here. These domes up here, so we got the satellite compass, which is the top one. We got the track phone and the track vision. The track phone, we don't really use. It's up there, but we don't use that. It's just not a service that we find useful with internet being so good. So normally what we do instead of the track phone is we're calling in on the sat phone. We can call in weather. We can use that like a modem, kind of like back when you had AOL. It reads and it can get a little bit of data, just really basic weather reports. But that replaces the sat phone, or the track phone, I'm sorry. The track vision, okay, pretty much all that does is run the Disney Channel and Nickelodeon. It pretty much runs that when we're underway. When we're underway and Brooke and I are paying attention to where we're going and then someone else is cooking or something like that, those kids are watching a little bit more TV than we would like. It's entertained them. Satellite TV is really nice if you're out of touch. There's a lot to go over in this room. I'm gonna go through it simply. To be completely honest, I'm learning all of it as well. I have a better understanding than I did a year ago, but there's always things that I learn. But this is one thing that I looked at right when we got the boat, and I knew there'd be a lot to learn. Just take a look.
I hate this thing. This is our pirate hiding spot. Actually, this is where I'll just put the pirates, because you can lock them in. Right?
Hi.
So lock them in. It's a jail cell.
Sometimes I catch myself just trying to track wires back to take a look at everything, and it gets pretty confusing. There's so you can tell how neat it is back here. There's really a lot of time spent in trying to make sure that everything is labeled. But even with that, it gets pretty daunting pretty quickly. There's things that I learn all the time, like a separate battery charger back here for the communication battery. There's a unit that's in the LAS that helps us if we ever go to Europe to get us from 50 to 60 hertz so that all of our equipment can still run on 60 hertz. There's also a unit that helps with on the boat as well. So you can tell there's a lot going on, and we've had to fiddle with it a little bit. Let me get this put back. You want to cut for a second? I'll put it over.
Brayden, why is there a hot dog sticker down there?
So we like to turn off the oven breaker when we're not using the oven. We never really want that to run if we don't know it's running, if someone bumps it accidentally. So the kids come up here and they turn it on and off on command. We got them. Turn on the oven breaker. They love to do it. But to identify it past the other ones, we put a hot dog next to it. So they know that's the oven breaker. It's really the only one that
Parent hack.
Yeah. So I think the panel is broken down really well. To 24 volts to 120, 120 or 12 volts, and your 240. So we can run all of this without the generator running. Okay, with these units here, we would need the generator running, or we would need to be on dock power in order to run anything on the 240 section.
As well as the AC.
The AC, we actually have a separate it can run with the house equipment, or it can run separate. And you can see these selector switches on the bottom. So we can select shore. Right now we're on shore power. And then we want to select where the shore power is coming from. So right now it's on the forward 240, okay? And if we wanted to run it, we could go aft 240. And you can see that the air conditioning can either run from the ship. So right now we have a 50 amp cord in. As long as we monitor our load and the dock that we're at has consistent power, which not all docks do have consistent power, but if they do have consistent power, we can run that on ship without popping a breaker. We just can't run everything together. But as long as we manage this section right here, we're okay. Okay, so the air conditioning, if we want to have a dedicated power source to the air conditioning, there's a forward and aft cord for a 50 amp cord for just the air conditioning. So if it's in a really hot climate, we might want to just stick it, put a separate 50 amp cord out so that we can have a dedicated cord for the air conditioning. Okay.
I like that one.
Yeah. Let's start over here, and I have to just say one thing so that no one wonders. This is the gray water tank. It says red. It's not red. The sensor's broken and we need to fix that. So don't worry about that right here. There's the black water tank right here. We have our port engine gauges and a separate Murphy gauge right here for digital gauges. We have 3 of the 5 fuel tank indicators right here. We always like to do the sight glasses as well to make sure that everything's accurate. Starboard engine, separate Murphy gauges right here.
So
digital.
we have 3 gauges for each engine.
A lot of it's redundant information.
Crazy.
It is redundant information. This one's nice because it's a really, I don't have it on right now, but it's a really intuitive display that makes it really easy to read.
Makes it simple too.
Yeah, we have a Furuno GPS, the satellite compass. These all run together. The AIS. And then we have an RD30. So this is a little confusing, but this RD30 you can tell is almost done. And instead of taking it out, the old owner just put a redundant for RD33 in here, which is the one that we use. You can tell the display is a lot better. These are our Masterville status for our DC and our AC load. And then this right here, it monitors the solar on the top, which is 400 watts. Right now you can see it's getting 8.3 amps coming in. We probably need to clean our solar, but like I said before, we draw about, if I'm trying to be as efficient as possible, about 30 amps. 30 amps is kind of the load that we draw when nothing's on.
Really?
So
is that good or bad? What would sailors say? Would they be disappointed in us?
I think they'd be disappointed. But there's a lot of stuff that's running. I talked about it before. We have, there's a fridge on the flybridge. There's a ice box down below next to the engine room that's quite large that stores a lot of our food. And there's a Sub-Zero fridge that's running. And these things are running all the time to make sure that the food...
So that's pretty much what the power is the fridge.
There's also other parasitic loads that are running on it as well that are going to take amps, so you can't turn them off. So right here we have 2 separate radios. Okay, these radios are redundant to 2 other areas. So the radios right here are redundant to the radios on the flybridge. So we have 1 independent radio on the flybridge, and then I believe this one matches the second radio on the flybridge.
We have one in our bedroom and one in the kitchen as well.
Yeah, there's another radio in the bedroom and there's a radio in the kitchen. The extra radios are nice when you're at anchor and your radios are on all the time because it's kind of it's the community chatter. There's radio nets that are going on. You like to know what's going on if someone else is dragging. Any information, you want to monitor those radios all the time. And this radio down here is the SSB. We don't use the SSB because it draws a lot of power.
That's an emergency radio.
But one nice thing is the SSB is a lot longer range. And one of the nice things the fun things to do just to mess around is when you're underway and you're kind of out there and you want something to do, you can just tune this into different stations and fiddle with a little bit.
Different countries, really.
Yeah, you can get, there's
You can
like
get far.
sports talk on here. There's different sorts of like talk shows that people do, just radio shows, and it's fun to stumble upon those. I think Chris Parker has a broadcast on the SSB.
Huh.
This is the radar. So I told you before, upstairs the radar does 95 miles. The radar actually goes out to 120 miles. So this is really nice when you're at anchor someplace like the Bahamas and you know there's a storm coming, but maybe it's a little bit more difficult to get accurate weather forecasts. You can see the storm on the radar from really far away.
But I think we have before. It looks like a green blob.
Yeah,
it's a little freaky looking. I don't like to see that on the
cloudy.
radar.
It looks really cloudy,
Yeah.
kind of hazy out there. And there's all these different sorts that you can do on the radar as far as tagging targets and tracking targets.
It's like a game, but I mean, the boys love it. Like Dan and you love playing, like tracking targets.
Yeah, the problem is trying to figure out what you did so that you can reverse it later.
Yeah.
Because that's
it's
always
so confusing to me. I just like, I like the AIS system.
So we have a separate redundant autopilots. We have the AP50 and the AP70.
Which we don't use the 50, right?
We don't use the 50, but the 50 is tied to a follow-up lever, which will kind of make the wheel obsolete.
Yeah.
We use the AP70, which is nice because it does have a no drift feature. So one of the things that I can do is I can track other targets. And it's really interesting to track targets going across the Gulf Stream, and you'll see how much the Gulf Stream actually pushes them. With the AP70, we keep a pretty true line, even though the Gulf Stream is pushing us so heavily, which is nice not to have to worry about that.
Totally.
This searchlight is extremely fun to play with at night.
Very expensive toy.
Yeah,
it actually helps. You can track markers with it, and that's what we do.
You can go broad, you can go narrow, and it can go all the way around 360 degrees. And when you press power, it goes back to center. Okay?
We can turn those radios off.
Yeah, we should turn those off, shouldn't we? Okay, so this is something that you hear talked about quite a bit, and this is a forward-looking sonar, I guess.
Oh.
It's older.
I don't think we've ever used it, have we?
I've used it. The problem is that it really it's good for finding fish, but that's really what it's intended for. As far as a navigational aid, by the time you notice something in front of you, it's too late. So we haven't really used it for that. We do have a FLIR system on the boat as well, and the FLIR system is also tied to the master bedroom TV. So when you're underway, you can turn on that FLIR system in the master bedroom, and it kind of gives you a little bit more idea of how things are going up top. It's not the best for a night, at least. And there also is another NavNet downstairs, as well as another RD30. So you can get a pretty good idea of what things are.
I like that while I'm in bed and you're driving, I can look and see where we are, what the wind speed is, what our coordinates are. It's nice for that, I think.
So yeah, so you can look at it and make sure that you didn't run aground, right? Like,
yeah, I like
it. That's nice. And at anchor, you can look at it and you can see if you're dragging.
Yeah.
Really, really easy. So this right here is running the NavNet, okay, which is tied to this Furuno control unit right here. Okay, so you can go here to display, and we can get different screens. So here's your navigation, and here's your depth. It's helpful, and it also runs the secondary radar that we have as well.
I think our electronics need updating, yeah.
I think it's always fun to update electronics. This runs redundant upstairs, and there's a separate one downstairs. There's a lot going on with those. Okay, so a couple interesting features are there is a strobe light, which isn't a navigational aid, but it can help if something's going on to identify your boat. We can flip on that strobe. It's if someone sees you at a distance, and there's many boats out there. I've heard of other boats flipping on the strobe. So that's what that is. Our main navigation system that we use is the Noble-Tech, and this is the Trident version, which I'm going to look at upgrading that this year before we continue to go on. And this is really what we rely on for navigation. You can see the different AAS targets that are there. You can do a lot of tracking. The Noble-Tech makes navigating very convenient. You got the generator right here. This is our stabilizer information that we're running right here. Another thing that we have is you can click on the display and we can go here to video display. These are a little bit older cameras.
But we have them and it's good for security.
Yeah, you can see, but here's the sonar right here and the FLIR is down here. So one nice aspect of this is that it records everything onto a looping hard drive, so that we can have footage and go back and look at that. And when we're at dock, we can also set that to be on the internet so that we can monitor the boat when we're away from the boat, which is a peace of mind for sure.
Yeah, awesome.
So let me show you a funny thing that we have on the boat that it would be fun to use, but we've never used it. It's a system called LifeTech. So what you do is you wear these wristbands, and then when you go overboard, you can just press that button. And I think if it gets wet, it also senses it. So this would be a good peace of mind if you're underway and it's at night and we don't like to go out at night, because if you fall overboard, no one's ever gonna find you ever again. And that seems like something that I wouldn't want to do, is go overboard to have no one find me ever again.
Unless you have your life tag on.
Yeah, but if you got your life tag, here's what happens. So I'm gonna turn on the breaker right here, and because, I believe it's because these don't have batteries, it makes a really fun sound. Ready? Oh, maybe they work because...
So if you press that, then it sends an alarm in here and we know someone went overboard, right?
And then it's all hands on deck, throw all the life rings out fast.
Yeah. So. Which we'll do another video on safety, because that's important when you're underway and there's certain maneuvers you should drive the boat when you're tracking and going back to someone that's gone overboard. We'll talk about that later. So on to new better things. Okay.
This is convenient and it always, so this right here, this looks like a normal house phone, but this is the sat phone. So the sat phone is actually connected underneath, and the antenna's up top on the electronic stack up there. And so whenever I dial out on this phone, it's actually dialing out on the sat phone. So when Brooke wants to, when family or something like that wants to call when you're underway, it's gonna ring in the bedroom, it's gonna ring in the kitchen, it's gonna ring upstairs, just like you're at home, even though you might be 50 miles off the coast.
It doesn't always work great though.
It works, it's just that sometimes the connection can be fuzzy.
Yeah.
And delayed.
Yeah. Like one time I called my mom, and then it hung up, and then I called her again, and it hung up, and she just heard that I need help. But I wasn't like in dire distress. I just needed help finding information, and so that she was all worried that I couldn't
didn't call the Coast
over.
Guard, so you're okay.
No, it was pretty funny though.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on.
You want to go upstairs? So let's go look at this. So this is one of this is one of the power commanders, and one of the convenient things is that we have 4 stations that we can drive the boat from. All right. So here we have an
Cove Marina, vessel main shadow.
Independent radio. So it's independent from all the other radios that we're running. Here's a separate RD30 to give us the information up here on the fly bridge. Our engine displays, AP70, AP50. We have the chain counter here, which can operate the windlass from up top if we want to anchor from up here. Thrusters, power, follow-up lever. There's the really important one right here. The volume for the speakers, okay? And this is a separate nav net that we're running from up here. And this display can toggle between anything that we need.
Okay.
So here's our tender. This is the car. When you're at anchor anytime, it goes fast. We just got a faster engine, goes even faster. We like to tow the kids on the tubes. I'd like to get them up on a wakeboard or a wake surf or something like that, which I think we'll do this year. The davit, that davit's not a toy. You think that it would be fun to use, but it's serious stuff.
It's dangerous.
I feel like a construction worker when I have it. It's a big kid toy, and it's fun to operate. You got to be careful and very systematic with how you lift and drop so that nothing goes wrong. We always have Brooke out here and any extra hands that we can have out here to assist and to make sure that the tag lines are secure so that the tender doesn't sway a lot in the wind or with any sort of swell that's outside when you're at anchor. See the engine back here? This is your kind of extra engine. It's on an inflatable that's right over here, drying out, and it's nice just for buzzing around if I just need to take the dog into the shore. That's kind of the.
What is the maximum load on the davit?
1,500 pounds.
1,500? And how much does our tender weigh?
You know what? That's something that we should look up, isn't it?
Are you sure it's only 1,500 pounds?
It's 1,500 pounds, yeah. Always secure this. Always,
Unless
always.
you want your toe chopped off.
Or your head.
Yeah, let's not get too morbid here.
So here's what's in here. Should I get a light?
No, it's fine.
So you have an extra claw right here. This right here is for mooring balls to give us a little bit more extension.
Right? No?
There is a bridle in here.
Okay.
And the mooring ball is kind of a bridle system as well. This right here is a block and tackle. It's one of like 3 that we have on the boat. And there's a bunch of other lines as well as a chain marker.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, so as far as power on the boat, there's a lot of batteries. There's 8 12-volt batteries, about 1,020 amp hours, and there's 4 batteries in the port, 4 batteries in the starboard. Those are house batteries. Other batteries that we have is we got a battery for the generator, and these are all Lifeline AGM batteries. Another battery for the generator, that's 105 amp hours for that one. There's 2 more batteries for the port and starboard engine star batteries for those as well. There's a separate battery, a communication battery that's underneath the pilot house bed, and that has a separate battery charger on it. So there's a lot of batteries going on. It's really important that we keep the batteries as healthy as possible and keep them fully charged.
Okay. Cool. Does that conclude everything?
Well, there's always more. There's always a lot more, but that's most of it.
Maybe we'll do part 3 another day.
Oh, we can just shove things in now and again.
All right. Well, thanks for watching.
See our pirate?
Yeah, I'll show them. But what do you tell everyone watching?
Thanks for watching. Make sure to give it a thumbs up. And what do you say?
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Do you like the thumbs up or?
Give it a like.
Give it a like.
Subscribe. And hit the
notification bell.
Wow, you've been watching YouTube.
Yeah.
And you can support us by joining
Patreon. Brooke's on Patreon. Brooke works really, really hard on the videos. She's very passionate about it, and she wants to make sure that she continues to make them for as long as possible. And with positive encouragement, it becomes a lot more worth it. So.
Yes, thank you. That's a good way to put it. Pretty much give me your monies. And that's it. I'll see y'all next week.